Hey guys, welcome back to BellaVet, and today we are going to be talking all about how to avoid a pet emergency. Hey guys, welcome back to BellaVet. For those of you who don't know, I am a newly graduated emergency veterinarian living in Chicago. So today I thought we could chat all about how to avoid a pet emergency. And first things first, I kind of want to just give you a little PSA from all veterinarians that, you know, at the end of the day, we want to see your pets healthy and happy and, you know, living their lives. And that's a big reason why I'm making this video, because there are some things that you can do to help make your home safer and things like that so that you avoid a pet emergency. And yeah, and I think unfortunately sometimes there can be this stigma that, oh, vets are in it for the money or something like that. And I like to think that maybe this is just a little bit of evidence to the contrary, because throughout this whole video, I'm essentially telling you how to avoid my place of work, how to save your pet's life, how to save you heartbreak, and how to save you money, because the emergency room can be pretty expensive sometimes. And just a couple things to keep in mind in case you ever do have to visit the pet ER. First things first, no one wants to go to the pet emergency room, and that's part of my job. No one ever wants to, you know, be a client of mine, understandably so. No one ever wants to have a pet emergency or spend their Friday night in the emergency room, but it is a place that emotions can run really high, and so just know that if you're on the end of, you know, if you're the pet owner bringing their pet in, it can be a frustrating place, it can be a scary place sometimes. I do my best to try to alleviate that as much as I can. It's one of the things I take pride in being an emergency vet, is, you know, guiding someone through a really scary situation and kind of being that light for them. But just know, just really try to keep in mind that, you know, all the nurses, all the receptionists, all the veterinarians that are taking care of you and your pet, they're humans, and I know that emotions can run high, but just do your best, try to be nice to them. You know, I know it's a really scary time, but they're here to help you. So also, like I mentioned earlier, the emergency room is pretty expensive, and there's a couple reasons for that. We have to keep the lights on 24/7, we have to keep it staffed 24/7. That comes at an expense. And also, emergency rooms have to be really well stocked, more so than, you know, just your average general practice, because we have to be prepared for just about anything. And one last thing, in case you do have to go to the emergency room, emergency rooms are based on the triage system, and that means that things that patients get seen in the order in which they arrive, kind of first come, first serve. But the only exception to that is that if something is really critical, basically if something needs medical attention or else it will pass away, you know, if it needs medical attention immediately, it will get seen immediately. So in our hospital, that's what we call a stat, or that's what we call, you know, an urgent case. And then we also have stable cases. So if you bring your pet in and they're otherwise stable, they're just having, you know, vomiting or diarrhea, or you think they may have broken a toe or something, usually that pet will wait around longer than a pet that's having an anaphylactic allergic reaction, because that pet, they're going to need to have medications and stuff like that immediately, or else really bad things could happen. So it can be frustrating for people to learn about that system. You know, it can add to wait times and things like that. But if you know that going in, you know, it kind of helps set your expectations a little bit. And in case you do have to come to the pet ER, one of the things that can be really surprising is how much it costs, because in human medicine, most people have insurance, and so they don't actually see, you know, the amount that their doctor's visits or that their hospital stays cost, or that they at least typically don't have to pay it. You know, insurance would cover some amount of it. And in veterinary medicine, at least, you know, 10 years ago, we really didn't have that. And so when people bring their pet to the vet and are paying for their pet's health care, you know, they're paying for all of it. It isn't, you know, covered in any way, typically. But nowadays, in the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, something called pet insurance has been taking off, which as a veterinarian, I absolutely love, because there are a lot of really tough decisions that sometimes have to be made based on finances. You know, how much care can someone afford to pay for their animal for, which are really hard conversations to have. And so when any of my friends are adopting a new dog or getting a new puppy, I'm always like, get some health insurance, some pet insurance, because you know, you never know when your animal is going to run into one of these emergencies. And some pet insurance even helps with, you know, everyday or, you know, just going to the vet for vaccines and things like that too, which is great. So it's also helpful to have a savings account, because some of these, you know, a lot of pet insurance, they reimburse you, but just to cover, you know, that initial bill before you're reimbursed, it's always really great to have an emergency savings account. So yeah. Without further ado, here are my tips to help save your pet's life, how to help save you heartbreak and also save you money. So next up, we're going to chat about cats. And the first category that we're going to talk about again is toxicities. And with cats, there is a decent amount of overlap with things like garlic and onions and human medications and things like that. But one of the toxicities that is special to cats is a plant toxicity. And there are many types of lilies that are extremely toxic to cats. And so basically there is a toxin in lilies that attacks a cat's kidneys. And if we have a cat that comes in that either ate lilies or rubbed up on lilies, or basically every single part of the lily is toxic, whether it's by touch or by ingestion. So if this were to happen, we bring them into the ER, we give them a bath, we sometimes, if it's, you know, within the right window, attempt to make them vomit, and we also typically recommend that they be hospitalized on IV fluids so that we can hope to prevent any further kidney damage and basically support their kidneys through this toxic event. So if you get flowers from someone and they have lilies in them and you have a cat, I know it seems rude or mean, but I would just say throw out the lilies. Don't risk it. It's a very sweet gesture to give someone flowers, or if you are giving someone flowers and you know that they have a cat, yeah, so just keep your cats away from any type of lily. And another toxicity for cats is certain types of dog flea medications. So there are certain types of medications that are intended to prevent flea infestations for dogs, and the active ingredient in them is actually toxic to cats. They're typically a topical medication, and this is just another big reason why I always suggest that people get their flea and tick medication directly from a veterinarian instead of buying it at the pet store, instead of buying it at, you know, Walmart or Target or someplace like that, because your veterinarian can give you the exactly correct product in the correct weight range, and basically help prevent this from happening. And what tends to happen is people just pick up, oh, preventative flea and tick medication, and they don't read that it says for dogs only or something like that, and they put it on their cat, and it causes basically body-wide tremors. It causes, you know, them to have lots and lots of shaking, and when you bring them into us, we tend to give them a bath and some muscle relaxants and some other things to hopefully help them out. But if you accidentally do this, definitely bring them to a veterinarian. They really need our help if this happens. And next up for cats is foreign bodies again. So basically eating things that they shouldn't, and cats are notorious for eating string foreign bodies. So basically they like to play with strings, and sometimes certain blinds have those strings that are attached to the end of them. If they get pulled off and they ingest the string, one thing that can happen is when the string goes through their intestines, the intestine can't get a good enough grip on it to push it down the line. And so what happens is the intestine is still trying to move it, still trying to push it down the line, it just can't do it, and the intestine gets really bunched up. Kind of think of it as if you have drawstring pants and you were to pull the drawstring really tight, it gets all bunchy, and it gets really scary because that not only stops the flow of food through the intestines, but also that that string can actually act like a saw and cut through the intestines and cause the bacteria that's inside of the intestines to go outside and go into the abdomen, which, if that happens, really scary things can happen. So definitely keep strings away from your cats. Even though I'm sure they love to play with them, it's for their own best interest. Another big one for cats that is especially prevalent for boy cats is what we call a blocked cat. And what we mean by that is something called a urethral blockage. So basically the urethra, the tube inside of their penis, is blocked with some sort of either sandy material due to crystals or mucus or like a blood clot sometimes. And basically what can happen with male cats, and it can happen to female cats to an extent, but it's much more prevalent in male cats, is what we call fluted or feline lower urinary tract disease. Also, another name for it is FIC, or feline idiopathic cystitis. And what that one means is feline cat, idiopathic, which means we don't really know the cause of it, and cystitis, which means inflammation of the bladder. And so what tends to happen is a cat will get stressed out for whatever reason. Sometimes it's something as simple as their owners redecorated or got a new oven or brought a baby home or renovated their house or something, and basically something that's changed in their cat's life and stressed them out. What can happen is their bladder, if they're really stressed out, can get just really irritated, and most of the time it is not caused by a bacteria. So most of the time it is not due to like a UTI or a urinary tract infection. Most of the time it is a sterile cystitis or an inflammation not associated with bacteria. And sometimes it can be associated with mucus in the bladder, or crystals, urine crystals being formed in the bladder, or a blood clot due to that inflammation in the wall of the bladder. And all of those things can travel down the urethra and they can block it. And if they block it, then the cat can't pee. And if a cat can't pee, that can be a life-threatening condition. And so basically what happens is it can throw off their electrolytes in their body, and that can cause them to have heart problems. And so if you notice that your cat is straining to urinate, if you notice that your cat is vocalizing in the litter box, or if their urine has blood in it, or if they keep making frequent trips to the litter box but only producing a little amount, they need to go to a veterinarian. But I will link down below some things that you can do to help keep your cat environment low stress, hopefully help prevent this. Of course you can't guarantee that it's going to prevent it, but you can just basically lower the risk of the possibility of it happening. Another great thing is to have a great big water bowl for your cat. Sometimes some cats don't like their whiskers to touch the water bowl, and so little water bowls, they can be like, ugh, I don't really want to drink that because like my whiskers are going to touch it, and like I'm not that thirsty, and so they won't drink as much as maybe they need to. Another great thing is feeding them a canned diet. Sometimes that can help them just get more moisture in their diet. Or some cats like to drink from a little kitty water fountain, so you can also consider purchasing one of those. It's great for this. It's also great, some cats might get kidney disease later in life, and having basically a cat be well hydrated throughout their life just can be really good for that. So. Also, one more thing is when you go to your general practice vet, maybe having them run a urine sample once a year, twice a year, to check for things like crystals. And there are certain foods that can help combat the formation of crystals in a cat's urine. And so basically testing for that, and then having a chat with your veterinarian to see if a diet like that, if you find crystals, is something that that would be beneficial to your cat. Another kitty cat emergency that we see occasionally is, especially here in the city, is if a cat falls out of a window. They are pretty good at righting themselves, which is good, falling on their feet, but what can happen, basically try your best to keep your windows screened, keep them closed, and make sure your kitty cat doesn't have the opportunity to leave via your window. And what can happen is, of course, they can get, scraped up, they can get broken bones, they can get trauma to their abdomen, they can get internal bleeding, lots of scary stuff. But a big one is that their lungs can actually get bruised. And just like any bruise, it can develop pretty fast, or it can take a couple days to develop. And sometimes if that happens, they need to be on oxygen supplementation and be hospitalized. So just make sure that you are staying careful. If you have your windows open, make sure that they have a really, really strong screen on them, or just maybe opt for air conditioning instead of an open window if you've got a cat around and you live on a high story. The last two for cats are things that you can do yearly or I guess once with your primary care vet, and that is to spay and neuter your kitty cats for similar reasons to dogs, and also vaccinate your kitty cats for similar reasons that we talked about. It's a great way to prevent a lot of scary stuff. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and so comment down below what you guys want to see me do next. Do you guys want more pet videos? Do you want me to talk about your pet's diet, or give you new puppy tips? Let me know in the comments below. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.